Now this is a very special interview. Australian captain Michael Clarke, on a comeback trail, almost there for the World Cup, elevated himself to a different pedestal in the cricketing world after what happened to Phil Hughes. The whole world realized that this man is there for the game and has given the game more respect. Talking to an Indian news channel for the first and only time on the eve of the World Cup. Michael, first question, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. It's been obviously a tough 8 weeks in regards to getting my preparation up to the standard of being able to walk back onto the field for Australia. But I'm really pleased. I think I've had a lot of help and support from the Australian medical staff to people back at home, to my family that have stuck by me through what's been a tough time. You know, obviously with what happened off the field with my mate Philip. And then also to get injured and try and find a way to get back in a short space of time to be able to play in the World Cup has been tough. It's been challenging. 8 hours a day of non-stop rehab and strength. But I'm fit and healthy, and I'm really excited about walking back onto the field for Australia.
You know, from Brisbane to now, when you had that injury after getting that 100 in that test match in Brisbane, many thought that, you know, it's perhaps not going to work. I mean, you yourself said in that press conference, it's perhaps the end of your career. And from then on to now, it's been quite a journey. I mean, talk me through that. How difficult was it to make the comeback? Did you believe that you can come back after injury? How difficult was all of it?
No, I think when I got injured, once I got the result of my injury, I thought there was a chance that my career could have been over. Obviously, I've had, you know, my back concerns through my whole career that I've been able to manage. You know, I got diagnosed with degeneration in my back at 17 years of age. I'm now 33, so my back hasn't stopped me playing cricket for Australia. But I think the build-up of hamstring injuries over the last 6 months, certainly, you know, I believe that my back was playing a big part in that. So I thought there's obviously, you know, doing my hamstring again and tearing it and needing surgery. I didn't know how long the recovery time was going to be, and I didn't know how bad the injury was going to be. So I not only had to get the hamstring that I tore right, my left hamstring had problems as well, and I had to manage my back as well. So, you know, there was always a chance that my body wasn't going to recover, that my body was telling me that it was time to walk away. So through hard work, like I say, and challenging myself every day, I've had to push my body to the maximum limit to see if I can cope with playing at the highest level. And fortunately, I've been able to do that.
You know, the Michael Clarke that I know has always been passionate, determined, resilient. You know, all said and done, is it difficult? I mean, the media is writing so much about you. Do you feel a lot of pressure going into this competition? Has it not been the easiest of rides? Obviously not. So how do you explain that? No,
it doesn't add to my own expectation and doesn't put any more pressure on me. I expect a lot out of myself. I want to make sure I'm leading the way and scoring runs on the field. I want to make sure that Australia's winning games. That's my role as an Australian player and also captain of the team. So, you know, it is disappointing when your own media outlets are writing things about you that I believe aren't true. But I also understand and respect that people have got to sell papers. So they've got to write their stories. And I'm sure they're getting information, how much is true, who knows, but they're getting information from people. So they're just doing their job, and I respect that. But look, my focus has been so clear. My goal, you know, from making the decision to go and have surgery, at that stage when I walked into the hospital, my goal was very clear. It was to get myself fit and healthy and get back on the park. Importantly,
I mean, there is so much being written about you and Steve Smith. I mean, there's been differences, the media is building it up. How did the team react to you coming back? I mean, did the team sort of welcome you with open arms? How was the reaction within the team that their captain is coming back for this big tournament?
Oh, the team have been fantastic. It's been great to be back around the group. I think we've played some really good cricket throughout the summer, and the boys are in a great place. We're excited about this tournament. But yeah, look, they had me back with open arms and made me feel really comfortable. I've known a lot of the guys for 10, 15 years, some longer. So I've got a great relationship with them. Obviously the media aren't aware, but I've been in contact with just about all the boys on the phone or go and see them in the change room throughout the Australian summer. I've watched every single game on television when I haven't been commentating. So, you know, it's not like I've been on the other side of the world away from the boys. There's been regular communication. So yeah, it's felt, they've made me feel extremely comfortable coming back in.
You know, Michael, when I look at this team, David Warner, Aaron Finch, Glenn Maxwell, incredible form, Steve Smith, perhaps at the top of his game, you coming back, George Bailey, Mitchell Johnson, Pat Cummins, one can keep going on and on. It seems to me to be a side that is, you know, completely unbeatable. I mean, on home conditions, it's got all the balance in batting, bowling, fielding. Do you actually feel that, you know, it's an unbeatable side? You guys are the favourites going into this competition?
Well, I certainly don't say we're unbeatable. I don't think any team ever is unbeatable, and especially in a major tournament like the World Cup where pressure plays a big part. Expectation, there's certainly expectation. You're playing, I think for Australia and New Zealand, because you have home ground advantage, there's always going to be extra expectation. Whether we're the favourites or not is irrelevant to me. Like I've said to the boys, it's about us playing our best cricket, and it's about building momentum. You know, I think obviously you would love to win every game you play in the tournament. That's the dream. But I think more importantly, it's about getting better. Every time you walk out onto the field, you're improving. Because come quarter-final time, that's the knockout stage. You need to be at your best at that time. Not necessarily now in your first game. We've got, you know, it's a 6-week tournament from start to finish. It's about getting better every single time we walk out onto the park.
While you say that, you know, you don't believe in the unbeatable tag and all of that, but don't you actually think that you are in a really good position? I mean, given the balance of this team, you are in a really good position approaching this huge competition.
I'm confident we've got a wonderful group of players. The squad of 15 is very strong, but I've also seen very strong Australian teams get beaten. You know, 2005 Ashes is a great example of that. Our team was unbelievable, yet we lost that series. So on paper is irrelevant. It's about how you perform on the field, and that needs to be our focus as well. I think you will see us at the you know, the quarter-final stage of the tournament. I think we'll make it to that position in the tournament, and then from there, especially in the shorter form of the game, in T20 cricket and one-day cricket, you know, one player on their day, if they have their day out, they can win or lose a game for you. So our goal is to get better every single time we walk out onto the field.
Right through the summer, Michael, you have played against India, you have observed India, you have commentated against when the Melbourne Test match was being played. How do you see them? Do you actually give them any chance? Or because back home, people have almost written them off, thinking that, you know, they've not won anything in this tour so far. The Australian summer has been miserable except that match against Afghanistan. Do you see India having any chance as defending champions going forward into this tournament?
I think they have a big chance. I think one of their great advantages is they've been in Australia for such a long period of time. I know what it's like when you travel abroad. You miss home and you like to spend time at home, but in regards to preparation for this tournament, it couldn't be any better for India in regards to seeing conditions, being in Australia, acclimatising, knowing the wicket that you're batting on or bowling on. So I think their preparation is spot on. Obviously, they would have liked to have had some more success throughout the summer, but you know, India perform in big tournaments as well. They've got some really good and important senior players that I think will stand up come the World Cup. You know, they look forward to these events. I think they're going to be tough to beat. There's no doubt about it.
I have to ask you, I mean, you've said to me in the past that Mahendra Singh Dhoni you think is the best man to lead India. Do you still think he's the best man to lead India? Do you think he still has the mettle, can take the pressure, can sort of, you know, do what he did 2011, leading India to World Cup glory? Does he have it in himself anymore?
Oh, I have no doubt. I think he is. I think he's the right guy to captain India. I think he's shown that. I think he's... Statistics don't lie over a long period of time, and his statistics are unbelievable, especially in one-day cricket. I think he's a wonderful guy. I think he's a great ambassador for the game of cricket, certainly for Indian cricket. He's a gentleman off the field. He's a competitor on the field. And I think it's a good opportunity for Virat to learn from MS Dhoni. I think Virat's obviously an amazing player, and when he gets the opportunity to take over from MS in the shorter form, he'll do a great job. He'll be a great captain. But you know, I think MS Dhoni has earned the respect of the Indian team. I think they look up to him, and I think he's a wonderful captain.
You've mentioned Virat. Let me ask you about Virat. He had a great test series, scored a number of hundreds, was batting in sublime form, but since then we've seen a temporary slump in form. Do you think it's sort of alarming? Do you think it's a cause of worry, or class is permanent and he'll make a comeback, you know, right when it matters, and the big stage is for the big man?
Oh, he's a star. He's a great player. He'll make runs no matter where he bats in the order. I think what MS is doing is trying to work out what's best for the team, and batting the order, having the order set that way, and that's probably exactly what I do as captain. You know, it's not necessarily best for me to bat at number 4. You know, personally, I'd prefer to open the batting, but it's best for the team for me to bat at 4, so that's where you bat. You know, I think it's not about the individual; it's about what's best for the team. Hence, I've batted in the middle order my whole career. You know, I guess, you know, under Ricky always wanted me to face spin bowling. He thought that was obviously one of my strengths, so he thought the middle order was right for me, and you know, I've stayed there ever since. So I think it's about what's best for the team. So if MS thinks it's best for the team to bat Virat at 3, I'm sure he'll bat him at 3 if he thinks it's best to bat at 4. But Virat's a class player. He'll make runs no matter where he bats.
So
hopefully not too many against Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope we are not playing Australia before the semi-finals, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Having said that, so this temporary slump in form, I mean, you think before a big tournament, this is not going to affect his momentum or anything like that, Virat's?
Oh, I think he batted beautifully in the Test matches. I don't think there's a slump in form. I think it's a couple of low scores, but I watched him bat the other night in the practice game against Australia. He looked magnificent. He chopped the ball on off Mitchell Starc. You know, on any day they can go through slips or French cut for 4. He's batting beautifully. I think a big score's around the corner.
Something that we have been really worried about, Michael, is our death bowling. I mean, having captained Australia with such success, do you think that is a real cause for concern? I mean, how does India approach death bowling? Because that's been, you know, who's our death bowler? We have no combinations yet. You know, spin obviously is not the strength in Australia. How do you see the Indian side? I mean, do you think they're underdone as far as death bowling is concerned?
Oh, I think they've obviously had a few injuries, which is hard for them. So, which on one side gives somebody else an opportunity, but for MS and for the Indian team, I think you would like everybody fully fit, like the Australian team. So then you can pick from a full strength squad. So I think injuries have obviously hurt them, but again, look, I think they'll be fine come the World Cup. They know conditions. They're accustomed to conditions. You know, right now it doesn't count. In these practice games, they're trying to get rhythm, get momentum, work out what their best team is. I think you'll see India come out and play really good cricket.
It's a blockbuster competition. Like Australia and England, it's India v Pakistan, perhaps the match of the World Cup. I mean, it's a sellout. Everybody from all parts of the world coming over to Adelaide to watch that blockbuster competition. You've played against Pakistan recently, you've played against India. Would you say India start favourites given their record, or how do you approach such a match? I mean, India v Pakistan on the 15th of Feb.
I think India have to start favourites, but I think Pakistan will be tough as well. I think Pakistan have got a lot of match winners. That's going to be a wonderful game. I look forward to watching that. Hopefully we've beaten England on the Saturday, and then I can watch India Pakistan on the Sunday. But I think that's going to be a really good game.
But when you know, in competitions like this, India versus Pakistan, is it about pressure? Is it about who handles pressure really well? Is it about mentality? Is it about sort of raising yourself to the occasion? Is it about trying to prove to the world that, you know, I can take pressure and make the big stage my own? What actually matters in matches like these, which are real high pressure contests? How do you sort of explain that?
I think in World Cups, there's a lot of the mental side of the game plays a big part. In major tournaments, how you deal with the pressure. But I think that's as the tournament goes on. I think at the start of the tournament, it's going to be about conditions. Who can adjust to conditions, who can pick the right team for conditions, who can execute their skills best in Australian conditions. And that's why I say I think England and India have a slight advantage over the other teams because they've spent so much time in Australia.
You know, if I ask you to look at the other teams in this competition, I mean, the two teams that come to mind, New Zealand and South Africa. South Africa, especially with A.B. de Villiers in the form of his life, the 30-ball 100 was sublime. I mean, it was sublime and ridiculous at the same time. Hashim Amla, tremendous form. Dale Steyn, Morne Morkel. Do you say South Africa start as one of the favourites? In 1999, they had a great chance. Now also they have a great chance?
Well, again, I think South Africa have a number of amazing players, very talented players who are in really good form. And conditions in South Africa are very similar to conditions in Australia. So there's not too much of a change there. So they'll feel comfortable playing in Australia. Conditions in New Zealand are a little bit different. Those slower wickets might spin a little bit more. And New Zealand are always tough to beat in their own backyard. So, you know, that's why I think Australia and New Zealand have to have a slight edge just because of home ground advantage. But then I think you think of India and England have spent a lot of time in Australia. South Africa conditions are very similar to Australia.
So it's the most
it's
open
tough.
World Cup in many ways.
I think it is. I don't think you can pick one team. You know, it's going to be a really exciting tournament, and I think there's probably 6 or 7 teams that can win this tournament.
And, you know, India plays South Africa in a week from now, Michael, at the MCG. Do you think South Africa actually goes into that match as favourites because of the bounce, the conditions at the G, and because of the South African bowling, which is definitely better? I see the two batting lineups being comparable, but when I see the South African bowling, I do think that the South African bowling is definitely better than India's.
India won the last World Cup, so I think they should be favourites. The fact that they know what to do to win a World Cup, and they've spent a lot of time in Australia. They've played at the MCG, but South Africa, on paper, are as strong a team as any team in world cricket at the moment. So, yeah, I don't think it matters who's favourites
on the day.
I think it's about playing your best cricket. Whoever plays their best cricket on that day will have success.
One very key thing that everybody is talking about, Michael, is the conditions in Australia. End of the Australian summer. Do you think the pitches will have a bit of turn? Will they get slower? Will there be bounce as much as you expect? Will there be batting tracks? Will it aid the batsmen? Do you actually expect bigger scores? Because Australia is the only country where in 50 over contests the scores have come down in recent times. How do you assess the conditions over the next month and a half? Do you think they'll change over time?
I don't think so. I think the wickets, we're getting to the back half of the Australian summer now. The wickets are generally at their best. So I think you'll see a lot of runs scored. But then obviously Australian conditions are known to have enough pace and bounce for the bowlers as well. So starting your innings is going to be the hardest part as a batsman. But once you get in, Australia's as good as anywhere in the world to bat and score runs. So I think you'll see some really entertaining cricket for the people watching on television, but also the people coming out to the games.
Final few questions. Personally, for Michael Clarke, what does this World Cup mean? I mean, I know it's a big comeback. How do you explain to me? I mean, how does the World Cup sort of appear to Michael Clarke going into this competition? What are your goals, personal goals?
Firstly, to get on the park and stay there, and secondly, I think try and help Australia win this World Cup. I think it's going to be a challenge, there's no doubt about it. We are going to have to play our best cricket, but my goal is to try and help Australia win this World Cup.
For you, team always comes first. I know that. Having said that, it is also an individual sport. I mean, there's individual achievement and there's team achievement. Talk a little bit about that. Your team has so many match winners. I mean, will they rise up to the occasion? How much is it about individuals sort of making the stage their own?
Oh, it's not about individual performances at all. I don't care who makes the runs. I don't care who gets the wickets. It's about trying to help the team win. There'll be times, someone like Glenn Maxwell, for example, will bat at 6, 7 or 8, and there'll be times he might even walk out and open the batting. To me, it doesn't matter who takes the wickets. If Dave Warner's bowling leg spin and takes 5 wickets, that's as good as Mitchell Johnson taking 5 wickets. I've never cared too much about individual performances. I've cared about everybody doing their part to help the team win.
Final question. You have always told me that you don't prioritise series. You don't. I mean, it's an India series or an Ashes series and a World Cup, it's the same for you. Your preparations don't change. Your motivations don't change. But having said that, the World Cup, the biggest cricketing show on earth, on home soil, doesn't that add to the excitement, the pressure, the occasion? How big is the World Cup for Michael Clarke? How big is it to win it on home soil?
Well, it's big because you don't get that opportunity. You have to be born into that opportunity. It's whenever you're born, the age you are, that you're fortunate enough to play in your country. Because it doesn't come around too often where you get a major tournament like this on your home soil. But my preparation doesn't change. If this was a tri-series against India and Sri Lanka, I would have worked just as hard to try and get back on the park. If this is a test series, then I want to win the test series. So, yes, it's a major tournament. Yes, it will be built up by the fans, by the media, which is so exciting for the game of cricket, and I love that. But from me and the Australian team, I just want us to play our best. I don't care if it's the first game of the World Cup, if it's a tri-series, if it's a test match. I want us to really enjoy our cricket and play our best cricket.
I'm sure you will enjoy your cricket. I'm sure you will do well. All I hope is when you come to that final at the MCG, it's Australia versus India. Thank you very, very much, Michael Clarke, for talking to me.
Thanks very much.
Now that's Michael. I mean, one hopes he does well because he's a great ambassador for this game of cricket. He has given us a lot of very, very good memories. Only hope is he doesn't do that against India. Thanks for watching.